Good morning, third graders. It's good to see you today. It's Friday, so we're headed into the weekend. So today is March 5th. So first of all, I want to take a look at our assignment from yesterday, which was our practice book page 10-2. So you're going to have your practice book. You're going to open it up to 10-2. And remember, this lesson was on comparing fractions with the same numerator. So this is our assignment from yesterday. We did the front together. Now we're going to take a look at the back and double check our work. So let's go ahead and get started. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 ask you to write a less than. Remember the L. Remember your capital L with your left hand. If you just knock it over to its side, you have a less than symbol, and the opposite would be greater than. So less than, greater than. So we have a less than symbol and a greater than symbol. So let's take a look at number 1. We have 1/8. And remember, if you break something up into 8 equal pieces, that whole is broken up into 8/8, but one of the 8s is going to be less than one of the thirds. Now, if you break something up into fewer pieces, those pieces get larger, okay? So, more pieces, they get smaller. So 1/8 is going to be less than 1/3. Now, let's take a look at number 2. We have 2 of the third pieces and 2 of our sixth pieces. So if I look at my 2/3 and my 2/6, remember your thirds are going to be larger than your sixth. And actually, if you notice, if you cut a third in half into 2 pieces, you get 2/6, which we're going to talk about equivalent fractions next week. But for right now, we're just comparing fractions. So we have 2/3 compared to 2/6. Our third pieces are larger than our 2/6 pieces. Okay, next we're going to look at number 3. Number 3 is 3/6. Okay, 3/6. And so we're going to take 3/6 and compare them to 3/4. So you have your fraction strips. If you use those, please make sure that you're lining them up side by side. Oops, that's a 5th. And I have 3 of my 6ths. Sorry, I'm using my strips to demonstrate and model for you. So you notice that the 6th pieces are going to be smaller than the 4th pieces. So when I compare 3 of the 6th to 3 of the 4ths, I'm going to get a less than symbol. 3/6 are less than 3/4. Number 4 is fairly easy because you have a half and a half. And of course, if you're comparing half to a half, they are going to be equal to each other. Number 5, you have 2 of the 8ths. 2 of your 8ths compared to 2 of the 6th. Now, just by looking at this, you can see that 1 of the 8ths is less than 1 of the 6ths. So if I have 2 of these, I know that 2 of the 6ths are going to be greater than 2 of the 8ths. But remember, we read it like a book. So when we read like a book, and I can't find my 8ths, oh, there it is. And then I have 2 of the 8ths. When I read it like a book, we say 2/8. 2/8 is less than 2/3. And on number 6, I have 3/8. So I'm going to put another 8th in there. I have 3/8. Compare that to 3 of the 4ths. Remember, 4ths are going to be larger because we didn't break up the whole. Remember, I keep saying whole. We didn't break up the whole into more pieces. We broke it up into fewer pieces. So 4ths are going to be larger than 8ths. So 3/8 is less than 3/4. Okay, let's take a look at our next problem. It says Ricardo has read 2/3 of a book. And remember, I asked you to model. So if you modeled yesterday correctly, you would see that, let's take a look. If you drew a picture for number 7, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle for a book. So here's Ricardo's book, and I'm going to label it with the name Ricardo. Okay, so try to label as much so you can visualize what you need to. The more you draw, the easier it will be for you to keep track of your information. So this is Lynn, and she read 2/4 of her book, same book, and Ricardo read 2/3 of his book, same book. Remember, we're comparing the same whole. So Ricardo has broken his book up into 3 equal parts. Lynn has decided to break hers up into 4 equal parts, so I start at half, and then I go between the halves, and I have fourths. So you can see that this 1/3 right here is larger than this 1/4. This would be 2/3, and this would be 2/4. So you can see that 2/3 is greater than 2/4. Now, it asks you to tell who read more of their book. So you could say, Ricardo read more of the book than Lynn. Don't say, Ms. Admi, I don't want to write that much. It's good. It's good for you to write that much because then you're explaining your thinking. That's great. Okay, number 8 is Maria and Nina. They're each ordering a small pizza. Again, same whole. Got to remember that. And one of their pizzas, Maria's, is broken up into 3/8 or into 8s. And Nina's is broken up into 6. So I'm going to start with Maria's pizza. And I'm going to draw a circle, because that's the shape of a pizza, right? And I'm going to try to do the same size circle. It's pretty close, right? But then again, we should also remember that we can use our fraction strips to help us with size, right? 1/8 and 1/6. So I'm going to break it up into half first, then 4ths, then I'm going to take each 4th and I'm going to cut it into 2 pieces, and I'm doubling those 4ths into 8ths. Okay, so now you can see I have 8 equal pieces, and she, Maria, ate 3 of the slices. So this would be 3/8. This is Maria's pizza. I'm labeling it so that I can visualize whose pizza is whose, because sometimes we forget if we don't label. And then I've got Nina. Nina has hers in 6ths. So I'm going to start with 3rds. And I like to make a wide Y when I do 3rds. So there's a 3rd, 3rd, and a 3rd. Take those 3rds and cut those into 2 pieces. Now I have 6ths. So I've got 1, 2/6, 3/6. We can see that right here, these 3/8 is going to be less than those 3/6. And the question asks, who ate more pizza? Well, we would say Nina. Nina ate more pizza. Because 3 of the 8ths are less than 3 of the 6ths. Okay, so Remember, you were modeling for 7, 8, and 10. Number 9 asks you which fraction is the greatest. So remember, the largest fraction that you have are your halves. And why is that? Because when you take a whole and break it up into 2 pieces, that's the largest pieces that you can make with the smallest denominator. Then you have thirds, but they don't ask you about thirds. You have fourth, you have a sixth, and you have an eighth. So these are unit fractions, right? Because they're only one of the parts. Unit fractions are one of the parts. Unit fraction is what? One of the parts. Yes, one of the pieces. So 1/2, 1/6, or 1/4, 1/6, 1/8. Which one's larger? Which one's the greatest? Going to be 1/2. And now it says y is 1/6 greater than 1/8, but less than 1/3. So you can say 1/6 is greater than 1/8 because, and remember I asked you to model, so you can use your other paper to model this, because fewer parts are greater in the denominator, right? So fewer parts means that 1/3 is going to be larger. So 1/3 is bigger or greater than 1/6, and 1/6 is greater than 1/8. Okay. So I'm going to pause for a moment. You can also pause this as well. Make sure that you have explained your understanding of how your thirds are going to be greater than the 6th pieces, and the 1 of the 6th pieces is going to be larger than 1 of the 8th pieces. Okay? So now let's take a look at your assignment for today. Along with your DMA quiz and your happy numbers and your fact fluency, there is a worksheet that is in your Schoology folder. You're going to open up the PDF file and you're going to need a piece of paper. So if you can't print this, you're going to need a piece of paper to write down the fractions, and then put a greater than or less than symbol to compare them. Okay, so again, this handout is not in your pink folder, not in your pink folder. It is in the Schoology folder, and you have to open it up as a PDF file. You're going to write your answers on a piece of paper. So I'm going to start with number 1, and I'm just going to give you an example. So when I open this up, I'm going to see number 1, and I'm going to see 2/4 compared to 2/8. Now, excuse me, I would really like for you to take your fraction strips and continue using those until you feel very comfortable with the idea that your 8ths are going to be smaller than your 4ths. And they're smaller because more pieces of a whole are going to be smaller than fewer pieces of a whole. It's kind of like that milk question the other day. If you break the carton of milk up into fewer pieces, you get more milk, right? So these 2/4 are going to be greater than these 2/8. So 2/4 is greater than 2/8. And remember, you're reading it like a book, from left to right, okay? So keep that in mind. You're going to do this for the whole worksheet, and then at the bottom, there is a fill in the blank, and it asks you, and you're going to write these down, the whole sentence. It says when the denominators are the same, the fraction with the blank is the largest fraction. When the numerators are the same, the fraction with the blank is the largest fraction. So, keep that in mind. If you have any questions, just type them out in Schoology, and I will answer as soon as I possibly can. Have a great Friday, guys. Don't forget your DMA quiz and your Schoology and your happy numbers and your fact fluency. Okay, I'm going to be checking those 3 things by the end of the day. Please make sure, Hybrid A students, you have this on Monday when you come to class. We will be going over it. Okay, have a great weekend, guys, and see you Monday.